Simandar. We're going to talk a little bit about the Byzantine Empire. This is our first day. We will be focusing in on some people like Justinian and Theodora in the early days of the empire. But before we get to some of that, let's just take a look at this graphic to discuss the timeline of the period of time that we're looking at here. So, initially we talked about the Roman Republic getting started in 509 BC and falling in 476. And it was during this time of the Roman Empire, that 1,000 years, that lots of stuff took place. Somewhere around the year zero, a little before that is when they developed into a bit of an empire, starting with the reign of Julius Caesar. But as we go through, lots happened in Europe in this period here. It took quite a bit of time that Rome began to fall apart, but once it did, it would evolve to the east anyway as the Byzantine Empire. And we'll take a look at this as we focus on these first couple of days of the Byzantine, starting with the reign of Justinian. So the first real question in blue, did the Roman Empire ever really fall? And to people living in the East, not really. They called themselves Eastern Roman folks living in the Eastern Roman Empire. They didn't call it the Byzantine until much later on. Historians made up that name. So the role the geography is going to play in the Byzantine Empire and its prosperity is really going to play out as we look at the Mediterranean world. So let's just take a look at a map here. Some basic things to do. First, I just identifying where Rome is, and of course we always just kind of make this oval for the Roman Empire, going like this. And somewhere around the year 270 or so is when Diocletian, the emperor of Rome, is going to divide the empire into two districts. So we will have the west and the east. And not long after that, one of his governors of the east, his name is Constantine, will eventually become emperor. And he, by the year 330, will literally make this a political move. He will literally move the capital from Rome to Byzantium, an old Greek city-state. Later it'll be called Constantinople after him. And there's a good reason why he's going to go there. We've got coming in from the east, okay, you've got the Silk Road trade routes, kind of doing this sort of thing and coming in from different directions. And, along the way, we would have these little sailboats that would pick up stuff, and they would work their way through the Black Sea, the Bosporus Strait, one of the key things we'll talk about here in a few upcoming lessons. And these boats would work their way out into the Mediterranean and then go into all different directions. So there's a good reason why Constantine would want to have the capital over here in the eastern part of the Roman Empire. So with that, we're going to see lots of prosperity to the east with all the trade networks. And it is this Bosporus Strait. Let me zoom in. It's this Bosporus Strait that will really be the ticket for Constantinople. So controlling the Bosporus means you're controlling trade, which is obviously going to do a lot of great stuff for the people in the East. So the people in the East will be very happy. The people in the West will ultimately fall to some military campaigns. We're going to have some Germanic invasions. Some Germanic invasions come in like this and eventually sack the city of Rome, where by 476, the whole thing is going to collapse. And it's in 476 and beyond that, let me just grab a highlighter, 476 and beyond that, like this whole section here is just going to become the Middle Ages. So eventually we'll get talking about the Middle Ages. Some people would call it the Dark Ages or the medieval period. And that's a little bit what's going to happen here as we look at all this. So what really happened, with the fall of Rome, there was, for political, economic, social, and military reasons, we're looking at, there's no trust, there's corruption, there's self-interest. All these things have an issue on Rome itself, and eventually going to, cause that thing to fall apart. Economically, the taxes would be overwhelming, just trying to maintain this massive empire is going to be huge. and paying for political and military campaigns. We also know that Christianity is coming in, so socially we get to see that there's a change in attitude and loyalty towards the state versus towards a religion. And that's going to make a big difference there. Economically, we'll also see with the differences between the rich and the poor. And that's also a social reason for the rich and the poor, that there's just a shift in what a priority has and what people value. So lots of things there with social issues, military, the division of the empire with Diocletian is going to be huge. Moving the capital is going to be huge. And, just having a focus over on the eastern side. So we will see that the cause of the fall of the Roman Empire and its causes are really going to have some long-lasting impacts. So when we go back to look at, the timeline again, we see that to the west we will have, things turn into the Middle Ages, and to the east we'll have some prosperity turning into the Byzantine, and we will see this guy named Justinian this week, who will be the first emperor of the Byzantine. Sometimes people say the last emperor of the Romans, even though there is a little bit of a gap between 476 and 525 when he ruled. But that's where our focus is going to be, and hopefully that is a good start.